Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling coherently into a microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and I continue with Tyranny blind. I have only one quest left, which is literally called Final Judgement, and I have to travel to the Bastard City to confront Tunon. So let's do that. You see the soldiers marching in formation on the road ahead of you. They don't seem openly aggressive, but as they come nearer, you realize that they are flying the standard of Old Stalwart. Upon seeing you, the leader raises a gauntleted hand in a fist, and the group stops. The standard bearer sinks his flag into the soil. Fatebinder, we are the true sons and daughters of Stalwart. You may have slaughtered our regent, but you have not defeated us. So long as the blood of Stalwart runs through these veins, the Overlord shall be resisted. Your blood, however, shall water these roads. Die, slave of Kairos. Haven't you heard about me being the one that ended the edict and also helped the Unbroken? Your hand near your weapons as you consider your words. Yeah, let's defuse the situation. It should be possible to do. Hands raised and palm open, you speak to the soldiers in the practiced calm of the court of Fatebinders. You speak of their bravery and that of their people of their homeland. The death of Stratos was a regrettable necessity to free the region from the yoke of the Edict of Storms. The cycle of violence need not continue here today. They need not throw away their lives that would be better served serving their home rebuild. The squad leader wipes his face. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps there is still work to be done in Stalwart. Farewell, Fatebinder. May we never meet again.
I got it.
Tunon's Judgement. No more proceedings will be held today. This court is something. This is an outrage. We demand to be heard. This decree is not subject to deliberation. The officers will escort you out.
Fatebinder, thank you for answering my summons. This could very well be the defining hour of the conquest.
The pleasure is mine, Your Honor.
Your manners do you well. All the same, we are here for justice, not pleasantries. I first want to make it clear why we've assembled today. After the collapse of Vendrian's Well and the start of the Civil War, it became clear to me that there must have been some great fault on the part of the Archons. We come together to root out the source of our troubles and determine which of the Archons has sowed more chaos during the war.
I can point to the culprit and spare us this discussion. Bloodshunter aims his crude dagger at your heart. This is the scum who has brought down the voices. I hope it isn't your intentions to arm yourself before a court of peaceful legal representatives, Commander, unless to offer amusement as Bledenmark flays you for our delight. Kallio offers an encouraging smile. He squints and slowly returns his weapon to his sheath. Tunon turns to aim what you can only assume is a stern look. He refocuses back onto you with cool stoicism.
Much has happened since I dispatched you on that mission.
Graven Ash and the voices of Narat, the appointed generals of this war, are both dead. You were instructed with bringing justice to the unlawful, but you have clearly taken the law into your own hands.
Tunon hovers in thoughtful, accusatory silence. Well, to be honest, no. The Overlord commanded this. I acted on the Overlord's admonition that only one Archon would rule the tiers. Do not attempt to lay responsibility for your treason at the Overlord's feet. One does not establish rule through turning coat and committing murder. No one epitomized enlightening rule like the voices of Nerat. Not that I disparage the Archon of Justice.
And you would be that self-appointed ruler. This court wonders what blood sacrifices your ambition will demand of you next.
The court has a serious problem to address. Your conduct throughout this campaign has come into question, and you will answer for your actions.
You have made quite a name for yourself, Fatebinder. Stories of your deeds have spread through the tiers, and all of them have reached this court. Some actions have consequences. We will see what your actions have wrought.
The chaos you've sown everywhere is unacceptable. You cast yourself so far outside the established order, I cannot begin to catalog your misdeeds. For this, you have been deemed guilty and must be executed.
Am I not allowed to have a trial? Is that not the proper procedure?
The outcome is a foregone conclusion, Fatebinder. Your actions cannot be allowed to stand. But if you wish to make a mockery of this court, I will add it to your list of offenses.
I want to defend my actions.
Very well. If you insist we proceed, then we shall. You are on trial for transgressing on the Overlord's authority, breaking the laws of the Empire, bringing mayhem to an otherwise orderly conquest, and meddling in concerns that fell beyond your station. Our directive to bring Kairos' peace to the tiers has suffered, and you will answer for the part you played.
If you don't mind, Adjudicator, we are on familiar terms with the Fatebinder here. Should any inconsistencies require our input, we will add our voices as testimony. She nods to Rogalus, and they turn to you with an unreadable expression.
The court has inquiries into your conduct. I first call your travel companions to speak on your behalf as witnesses to your character or accomplices to your crimes. Who will speak on behalf of the Fatebinder? Tidecaster, let yourself be known to the court.
The court wishes my testimony. Well then, I am Ebb of the School of Tides, and this room echoes a lot. It's very intimidating. I don't know what passes for glowing praise in this particular court, but the Archon gets my reluctant but uncoerced vote of confidence.
Will anyone else speak on the Fatebinder's behalf? Let the aged chronicler step forward.
If it may please the court, I will speak true. I have had the honor and privilege of shadowing the Archon. A dream come true for someone so eager to witness history in the unfolding. I can say, with conviction, I am following greatness.
And if required, I could also produce my travelogue to back my claims. I have noted the good with the bad, and I think you'll find the Archon has been a force of order and balance, exactly what you would want from a Fatebinder.
Will anyone else speak on the Fatebinder's behalf? Let the Beast Woman come forward and offer testimony. I would hear her speak.
Archon barks orders at Beast Woman. Thinks kills in shadow will obey.
She cocks her head to one side and stares at the Archon for a long moment, her lips twisted with barely contained violence. Then, with a peeved huff, she lopes forward.
Beast Woman follows only toughest, most vicious alpha.
She puffs out her bared chest, proud and flaunting. Yeah, this isn't going to convince him. The fact that I'm the most vicious doesn't exactly speak well on my behalf in the eyes of the law.
Alpha to kills in shadow has slain and rip-slaughtered ruthlessly, leaving trail of prize corpses through all of Tyr's lands. fighter can make even ironclads flee, yelping in fear, will not find better predator elsewhere.
In hindsight, it might not have been the best idea to bring a beastman into the court, but I wasn't expecting, I actually agree with him. My treason against Kairos is a foregone conclusion. Like, I can't imagine a way in which the mental gymnastics that you could use at this point to justify it. I can justify it on moral grounds, but he doesn't care for that.
Will anyone else speak on the Fatebinder's behalf?
Evidently not. The time has come for the Fatebinder to offer his testimony. At Vengeance Well, you joined with the enemies of Kairos, abandoning your orders to resolve the siege and the conflict between the armies. How do you answer for this charge? It also bears mentioning that you were not tasked with satisfying the Overlord's edict, only proclaiming it. Finding a solution was for the Archons to accomplish with martial force. Rogalus nods to Tunon. To be honest, I don't even care, because right now I'm sort of debating whether I should try to twist it in a way that would possibly find me innocent. But the problem is, I don't care for being found innocent under the laws of Kairos, because I don't care for the laws of Kairos in the first place. So, like, my actual beliefs are this. But obviously they are going to hate it, and why shouldn't they? I am being judged under the laws of Kairos. I have to. If I agree to that, I can't now go, oh, they are actually bad laws. Like, I guess let's try spinning it just for the shits of it, like, shits and giggles, just to see if I can convince Tunon. No amount of mediation could get the Archons to work together, and the war only invited mayhem. I organized the tiers as I saw fit. You fought alongside both armies during the conquest, so I shouldn't doubt your perspective on the matter, though I find it troubling. Kairos' edict at Vengeance Well should have destroyed the Archons or forced them to cooperate, but your intervention alone was the deciding factor. Tunon appears deep in thought. I dispatched you to Vellum Citadel to deliver Kairos' edict of fire to the School of Ink and Quill, a punishment for their archival of forbidden lore, and a failure to recognize the proper authority of the Overlord, yet you hesitated longer than necessary in its issuance, warning the sages and allowing them opportunity to perform a ritual that preserved much of their heretical knowledge. The Fatebinder's actions spared more lives than books, Archon. There was little that could be done in a few hours that the edict came to pass, aside from fleeing with a handful of pages and the sandals on one's feet. The Overlords intended neither page nor flesh to be spared, Sage. Enough. The Adjudicator rumbles, his gavel striking the floor. There shall be order as the Fatebinder answers this charge. Yeah, I guess this is not a bad argument as covered under the laws of Kairos, because at the time, the voices of Nerat outranked me. The Archon of Secret claimed to have spies among the sages. He personally requested time for them to escape. As I had no strict deadline for delivering the edict, I honored his request. The Adjudicator silently considers this. The request of an Archon could certainly buy a few hours of reprieve from an edict if the circumstances warranted it. You showed appropriate judgment in this situation, though I harbor suspicion of the Archon's motives for this entreaty. You resolved Kairos' Edict of Storms with a legal contrivance. What's more, you spared Stalwart's ruling bloodline, circumventing the edict's very purpose. Do you think the Overlord's fury was a riddle for you to unravel? If the Overlord's will can be overcome by a legal loophole, don't you see the implication? Kairos is fallible. Or failable, rather. Or fallible? I am a bit too tired to answer that right now. Your Honor, I move that this statement be stricken from the record on the ground of falsehood. For a long moment, the only sound is the whisper of Tunon's shifting robes. When the Archon finally speaks, his voice rolls through the chamber, as implacable as the headman's falling axe. You presume to understand the Overlord's will. You believe that armed in a modicum of research and idle chatter, you outwitted the Overlord. I find your claims as repugnant as they are naive. The Earthshakers Guild swore its loyalty to the Archon Cairn, and then to the Archon Graven Ashe, yet you pried their loyalties from him and bent them to yourself. Explain your actions. The Earthshakers fortified a camp in the Stone Sea, a clear violation of the Voices of Nerat's claim on the territory. My duty compelled me to remove them. Yet you did not return them to the Archon of War, but rather rallied them to your own cause. I perceive self-interest shrouded in the guise of the law. I shall consider your claims. During the conflict against the Sages, our forces secured a caravan and uncovered a veritable trove of forbidden texts Sages have smuggled out of their libraries. Rather than feed it to the pyre, you kept it for yourself, giving that which you deemed inoffensive to the Scarlet Corps lieutenants. The court charges that you possess forbidden knowledge. How do you answer? I destroyed the forbidden tomes and earned favor with the chorus. Were these not both my duty? Perhaps had you used the favor to prevent the violence between the Archons, I would have indulged this defense. Shadows coil at the end of the Archon's staff. Instead, you ask me to believe that you did not retain the knowledge that you destroyed, that you have not made your mind a repository of heretical writings. I cannot. You entered the Old Walls, a clear violation of Kairos' law. How do you answer for this perversion of justice? Do you think yourself above the law? My only trespass came in pursuit of trespassers, that I might punish their transgressions. The circumstances you have described have no precedent, but I trust your reasoning. Agents of the court are not immune to the law, but your position was an impossible one. At Duskwatch Fort, you gave aid to the enemies of Kairos, slaughtering a unit of disfavored in the region. The Archon of War lost many good soldiers that day. The disfavored failed to occupy Duskwatch, so I claimed it. Your own claims defeat you. The Spire was your base of operations, was it not? You had no cause to claim disfavored lands from under them. At the city of Halfsgate, You killed the garrison choirmen who lawfully claimed it. A dozen of Kairos' servants bloodied the streets in your wake. They attacked me and hence violated Kairos' peace. I defended myself appropriately. I suspected as much. A pity you could not do so without eradicating Kairos' presence in the town.
I have one final question, Fatebinder. You were brought to this campaign to adjudicate the disagreements between the two armies. After your arrival, matters quickly escalated into a civil war. Did you knowingly join the conquest of the Tears to sow discord in your wake, or were you merely a victim of circumstance?
Yeah, I did gather a bit of dirt on each of them. I recognized the Archon's corruption from the start. It was only a matter of time before they turned on each other, and I was prepared for that eventually.
If you anticipated a failure on this scale, you should have informed me, or else worked to avoid it rather than pit combatants against each other.
That's right, like, he got me there. I should, he's right. If I was expecting it, I should have informed him. He's right. I walked into, truly the wisdom of the court knows no bounds, Your Honor. Regulus turns to you with an imperious look.
I am finished with my line of questioning. Have you any closing remarks for the court?
I don't think it matters. I think I am going to be found guilty, and I don't care. That's the, I don't want to proclaim myself as a new overlord. I don't care about this. Though I have ever strived to bring peace and order to this shattered region, I recognize that our work is an uphill battle, and well worth the struggle.
The way you frame it, the conquest sounds like a matter of true personal investment. Most curious. After weighing the charges, this court finds you guilty of all charges. It is this court's opinion that you are a seditious mastermind, a scheming derelict, and a traitor bent on sowing the destruction of the Northern Empire. The sentence is death.
Well, to be fair, it would have been cool if I managed to swindle him into finding me innocent, which I assume is an option, otherwise this whole scene wouldn't make much sense. But the problem is, I actually personally agree with his assessment of me. If you're Kairos, I am guilty as heck, and I don't care. I hate Kairos. I think he's, an insane demigod that wants to rule the world because he thinks like he's entitled to it or whatever. So we shall see about that, Adjudicator.
Hubris in the face of annihilation. My court and the world at large are better rid of you, wretched thing. Blood and mark, execute him.
Blood and Mark emerges from the shadows. He steps forward with purpose, his daggers drawn. Well, say nothing, prepare to fight.
demonstration of our power seems in order.
Cuts deep.
I'm terrible at this. How am I not dead?
That's how it's done. Hurts.
Right. I hit, doesn't it?
I'll be filling that one for a bit.
Nice one, kid.
Stop dodging strikes! Rending claws!
I'm getting too old for this.
I'm terrible at this. How am I not dead yet?
If I had kids, they'd be feeling that one.
The trick is to keep twisting until you hear the snap.
Crap.
Will do.
I'm terrible at this. How am I not dead yet? Oh, I'm enjoying this a bit too much. Hey, nobody saw that, right?
Will do. Sorry, I can't.
Golden glowing eyes wide with surprise, the Archon tumbles to the ground, coughing blood as dark as the shadows that billow and ebb around him. He clutches his shattered ribs and grins.
Look at you. The surprise of a lifetime.
He gasps, drowning as his lungs will fill with blood. The light in his eyes dims as the pupils seep blackness, expanding to fill the whole of his eyes. A look of meaning passes between you, his fingers digging in the ground.
Don't die too easily. Won't look good for me. This brightness is blinding.
My headsman. His life was not yours to take.
Behind Tunon's anger, you detect a more subtle reaction, disbelief.
This is your end, student. No mercy for traitors. Only the cold embrace of the grave.
You will be judged at the end of a blade.
More! Our wake.
Whimper and ride for Beast Woman! Stop dodging strike from rending claws!
This is useless. I should try something else.
Oh, this weapon is like nipples on men. Useless.
Fair enough.
Pay for your wrongs.
Oh, wrong weapon for the job. I need to try something else.
Pay for your crimes.
It's a tough job being so remarkable all the time.
Stop dodging strike from rending claws! Shadow Hunter strikes with sharpest claws!
Will do.
I feel faint.
This is useless. I should try something else.
You have learned much. much in your few years, Archon. Striking down our kind is more than the swinging of a blade or pounding of a mallet. There are Kairos' laws, and the laws that govern our natural order. I fear they often diverge. I have broken the laws of nature for too long. Life should end in its course. And this is my time at last.
Through the pain, you can hear something like satisfaction in Tunon's words.
Kairos is coming. An army swifter and more dangerous than Disfavored and Scarlet Chorus combined makes for the Tears, propelled by the Overlord's will. Your efforts here are wasted. You cannot halt this advance.
Can't I? An edict issued upon the Northern Empire should do the trick.
Perhaps I underestimated you. You wield the talents of the Overlord. Better that you use them to end your life, because Kairos will dismantle everything you attempt to build. Good luck.
Tunon raises his arms and looks at the ceiling of his court. With a flash of arcane power, the Archon is no more. Kairos' puppet is no more. Ebb pounds her staff to the ground in triumph. This is a great symbolic victory. We have smashed the public face of Kairos' lawful and legitimate control of the Tears. This will be remembered as a day of liberation. If you had told me this morning that we're going to slay the oldest Archon, I would have thought you mad. Sketching what remains of an Archon of Justice, Lantry's hand moves with harried excitement. I bet he never thought he'd be done in by one of his own Fatebinders. His downfall will make for a most amusing chapter of the Chronicle. Archon was not so tough. Like all creatures, he grew weak from too many seasons, was Prima's favored for far too long, had become weighted with too much arrogance. The smart mask of stern and unforgiving iron was previously worn by Tunon the Adjudicator as a symbol of impartiality. Even before he assumed the mantle of Archon and Lawbringer, Tunon's obsession with fair procedure extended to his face, which he did not trust to audience a trial without expressing some more unintended bias. This mask replaced the previous variation made of wood and was assigned to Tunon when he became the Archon of Justice. In keeping with Tunon's severity, his mask is extremely uncomfortable. He wore this for uninterrupted centuries. How he wore it for uninterrupted centuries is a mystery. His mask is nothing if not an extension of one of his core philosophies, that everyone should feel protected under Kairos' law, but no one should feel safe. Rule of law. Tunon's gavel is heavier than it looks. The Adjudicator must have been strong to hold it suspended above the ground for so many years. The rule of law was an extension of Tunon's will. He brought this weapon to bear in the deliverance of Kairos' judgment. Some of its power seems to have departed along with the Adjudicator, but it remains a steadfast and intimidating weapon. This bracer was once worn by Bled and Mark and is made of an unfamiliar substance, part velvet soft darkness and part hardened insect chitin. It is said to be that the darkness is more oppressive when an Archon of Shadow walks the face of Terratus. The magic stemming from his power draws on the substance of shadows with an air of welcome and invitation, treating the dark less as something more than an arcane force. As such, a bracer allows the wearer to embody the darker self, has overtones of danger and risk. Just looking at it too closely causes your vision to swim and sends a wave of nausea rolling through your gut. Wait, what happened to you? Did you flee? I don't blame you. What happened must have been pretty terrifying to you. But I have to say though, compared to Graven Ashe and the Voices of Nerat, Tunon and Blood and Mark were kind of weak souls. Return to Ascension Hall. You will need to meet with your alliance to determine what is next now that all the Archons have been defeated and Kairos' threat hangs overhead. Pleased to see you in Ascension Hall, Fatebinder. Matthias nods with pride, but looks troubled all the same. Is something wrong? I've been troubled ever since we've settled the matter with Amelia and Stratos Herodin. Matthias crosses his arms and taps his shoulder. When I consider how close we came to killing Amelia and her child, it puts me to mind of my failing as a leader. I was ready to commit an atrocity to destroy lives because I felt I had no other choice. Even if the baby may never know what I would have done, I will always know. It's your job to face these truths, to lose sleep over them. You're an adult. Yes, perhaps you're right. I suppose I'm being naive about my role, and how I've always seen it. I must be prepared to do the incredible, often despicable things for the sake of my people. No, that's not what I meant. I meant you're supposed to feel bad about this because it was a very bad thing that you considered doing. I have questions for you. Of course. Where does Stalwart go from here? We're still picking up the pieces of our realm and figuring that out. That question is on everyone's mind, and it's how closely we embrace the values of the past. Given that they led us here, he shrugs. A new Stalwart is coming, and for once we will be dictating the terms of its rule. Tomorrow will be brighter than yesterday, and which is the only assurance any of us can hope to find. When the fighting starts in earnest, will you be ready? Of course. Now that I've whittled down the disfavored presence and cleared up the Edict of Storms, we have had time to train and prepare ourselves like a proper army. When the call to action comes, Stalwart will stand with you. Cairn entrusted us with his legacy. He stood against Kairos for what he believed in, so we will do the same. I still hold hope out for freedom from Kairos. The hall is full of hushed whispers, some sorrowful, other terrified. You hear your name spoken more than once, and not always favorably. As you approach, the whispers cease, and everyone looks to you at once. Fatebinder, Archon, we know of Kairos' army marching south, but we had hoped. We were under the impression that defeating the other Archons would stem its advance. Is it true what we've heard? That Kairos' forces are coming anyway? Doubt, fear, and resolve vie for domination in her shaken tone. Your words will set the mood for the coalition to come. I will not shield you from the truth. Kairos is coming to destroy everything that we have built. I had always hoped I would see the day when the Earthshakers could study outside of Kairos' authority, but I never expected to die for that dream. I was at your side when you did what was needed at Sentinel Stand, and I'll remain at your side now. Even if Kairos shatters this coalition, we will know we stood tall before insurmountable odds and did not falter. I won't have my guild subjected to slavery again. We are not Kairos' toys no longer. We are Kairos' toys no longer, she nods to you. We are willing to die for this coalition, come what may. Now is the time. Now is not the time for us to crumble into despair. Listen to me. The Archon is going to... The Archon... Ari tries to make her voice heard above the rubble, but she lets it drown out, looking dejected and hopeless as any of the others. With unity on our side, we can face any threat. Have you taken a head wound recently? We don't have the forces to stand against this threat. How could you possibly outmaneuver the Northern Empire if it breathes down your neck? There's a resonator atop the mountain spire. I can use it to cast an edict. The room grows hushed again as everyone studies you, your words finding a place in their imagination that has not existed a second before. Do you intend on issuing an edict on the Northern Empire? Is that your plan? This will send a clear message for everyone to know. The tears will be free. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think it's the first time I've truly felt optimistic about our chances. A cautious smile flickers to her face. To send the magic of Kairos back against the North, it could change everything. Just imagine what people will say. But what comes next, Archon? What of the tears and this new realm we've carved out of the mayhem of conquest? Together, we will compromise on a new code that everyone in the tiers can use to maintain order. Our fates have been chosen by the will of distant powers. It is time to take back control and determine our new course forward. Well spoken, Archon. Coalition, what say you? Arguably, the law of the land is the most effective change the Kairos brought to Terratus. I would bring a more favorable version to the tiers. If you would bring a more favorable version to the tiers, I think it could only help us. Laws that govern us as a unified people, and not just a cluster of corrupt powers to pick and choose. There's potential here, I admit. The realm needs our intervention, and we need a structure that binds us together. Unifying our definition of justice under a single banner is an organized approach. So be it then, Archon. I only hope you know what you're doing. The hopes of this coalition go with you. She clasps her hands and bows. Okay, so I am supposed to proclaim an edict from atop here. But wait, haven't I researched an edict? Edict of Malediction. The sages combed through ancient scrolls, searching for hints of arcane knowledge. They found a ritual that might give insight on how Kairos commands powerful edicts. This information will unlock the precise wording of a previously unknown edict. Could you research another one? No. Okay, so let's just go and see what my choices are. The waves of energy radiating from the spire draw you forward, pressing your body and mind to its eager embrace. At the center of the tide, the resonator stands ready to broadcast your voice, echoing your commandments to the farthest reaches of the tiers and beyond. From here, The highest point in all of the peninsula, you could, with the sum total of your effort, project your will far north, past the edge of the tiers, and proclaim your edict as far as the lands of the Northern Empire. Affirm your loyalty to Kairos. That would be a twist. Any requests from my companions?
How could you ask such a thing? I can't possibly make such a far-reaching decision. I'm sorry you have more options than you have convictions.
Lantry swats his quill at you while he switches to sepia ink.
Alpha should bite at foes with fire and blood, venom and darkness. Want to watch flaring, fleeing humans lit as fires and shadow. Want to listen to death yowls consumed by crackling flames.
And this probably amounts to a declaration of war against the Overlord. Well, to be honest, I would say that happened some time ago, but, you know. Are you ready? I knew we would make our stand at vengeance well. I just imagined we would all die miserable. Who would have predicted the Archon of Tears would save us? No, you don't have a gratuitous display of magic. Now, don't you have a gratuitous display of magic to show the Overlord? I am wet with anticipation. This is new territory for all of us. You're the first to strike a blow directly at the Overlord. Make sure it counts. Hope you don't mind if I stand back and take notes. By all means, continue.
Beast Woman and Alpha to Kills in Shadow have slaughtered many tough challengers and fight for survival. Have hunted Archons and ravaged whole armies. If Kairos was in Tyr's lands, Shadow Hunter would tear out human Prima's throat, consume fear-flooded heart, and scent-mark humans' mangled bones. Alpha too would do the same. It's beginning of new season, of time to hunt human called Overlord.
The last surviving Shadow Hunter haunches on all fours, her back arched, head thrown to the firmament as she howls loud enough to shake the tears. If I don't show Kairos my ability to cast an edict is more than a one-time thing, the attacks will never stop. That would be a riposte for the ages. If it were up to me, we would debate the matter until Kairos' forces were up upon us. You had better hurry. The spire awaits your command. Edict of Malediction will twist the strands of fate, causing misfortune and bad luck to plague your enemies. The balance of fates is shifted for all within this region. The party gains a bonus to all skills. Grace, precision, blah blah blah. To be honest, it kind of sucks. It affects regular people as well. But I think I'm going to cast the Edict of Stone, because maybe I can break off the piece of land that connects the tiers to the rest of it, thereby creating like an island. That would be much easier to defend, because obviously a naval assault is pretty difficult to actually organize. You need ships, and then you can destroy those ships with people still on them, or you can just defend a given landing location. Let's cast the Edict of Stone.
The tiers have been conquered, unified at last under a single banner. Your edict, brings devastation and ruin to the Northern Empire. Some believe the edict to be Kairos' work. Others hope, or fear, that this edict comes from a new voice. Kairos' forces withdraw from their march upon the Tiers, as they are sent into disarray by your edict. The majority of the Tiers are united under your banner, and old animosities put aside, for now. The Overlord's conquest of the known world has come to a halt, and the whisper of a challenger to Kairos' power slowly spreads throughout the land.
Your Edict of Stone shakes the ground under the northern capital, a quake that builds in such ferocity that massive sinkholes open under the bustling city, swallowing whole districts. As citizens flee in terror, mages attempt to help, but find their arcane powers dampened to the point of uselessness. Even as they cleave to the falling structures or run from the widening fissures, all wonder why Kairos offers no deliverance. As chaos ensued in the Northern Kingdom, the armies marching on the Tiers received an unprecedented order. The armies were to fall back to the capital and ensure the safety of the people from the edict. For the first time in Kairos' great conquest, the armies retreated. Soon questions would be asked in hushed breath across the lands, about what new and terrible power had emerged that could force the hand of the Overlord. You fulfilled Kairos' decree, and all of the Tiers is now ruled by a single Archon. Your former rivals have either submitted to you or perished, bringing the civil war to a close. No one expected one of Kairos' own to join the enemy cause, least of all a Fatebinder. Your arrival at the Tiers brought a new clarity to your place in the Overlord's authority. You resolved to make a mark upon the world through cooperation rather than conquest. Your efforts brought together the Forgebound, the Earthshakers, and the Unbroken, three groups with nothing in common except a desire to see Kairos removed from their lands. With this alliance, you brought down the Archons that opposed you. In their pride, the disfavored never imagined themselves beaten, especially when the opponents appeared so disorganized. The last remnants of the Legion disperse, their general destroyed, their honor broken beyond mending. The scorn that follows their humbled ranks haunts them even in the depths of obscurity. The Scarlet Chorus may have been mighty in numbers, but that didn't stop you from thoroughly scattering them, cutting off their serpent's head and sending each of the gangs howling back to the chaos they sowed. How the remnants of the Horde occupy themselves without a war to fight, becomes a topic for nightmares. The trust of a conquered nation was hard won for a servant of the Overlord, but your demonstration of loyalty earned respect of the Tiers' quarrelsome factions, and the support needed to bring order to the beleaguered people. Your wartime aid became widely regarded as the most influential change in the Tiers since the coming of Kairos. Word of your success spread beyond the Tiers as well. Even the most distant corners of the Empire whisper of the Fatebinder who rose to become an Archon, and an Archon whose intervention shattered the conquest, making a way for a new future in the devastated nation. Earning the cooperation of the rebel factions fulfilled Kairos' plan of uniting the Tiers under one banner. The realization of this irony leaves you with many questions about the part you played, but precious few answers. You work to ensure peace in your new homeland, yet throughout your trials, the notion that you are part of some greater manipulation haunts you. Now you lose sleep trying to ignore it. With the Edict of Stone dispelled, the Earth settles around the Stone Sea, ushering a new age of verdant growth and prosperity. The country may never resemble the glorious realm of Azure, but with new life, many new things become possible. The memory of Cairn as a great force of destruction remains as a monument of inert rock. Most agree that the world is better off without the Archon of Stone, as the people of Azure begin to slowly reclaim the land that was once torn asunder by his power. With the Edict of Stone dispelled, you ensure that humans once again populate the realm of Azure. The Stonestalker tribe is gradually pushed out of their new territory, and those who don't resist are enslaved, put to work rebuilding new human settlements. I am sorry about that. That sucks for the Beastmen. Recruiting the Earthshakers for your army ensured that the Arcane Fist remained intact, and they were instrumental in helping you defend Letian's Crossing when Graven Ashes sent the Disfavored to attack. Under Isadora's direction, the Earthshakers flourish in the years following your victory. She abolishes the rigid structure that once held the mages down and allows them to experiment and explore their powers. The Earthshakers spread quickly throughout Terratus, becoming a group of power and renown. With a prolonged stalemate against the Disfavored put to a close, the Unbroken are able to think of peace and freedom for the first time since the coming of Kairos. They govern their people with fairness and understanding that was absent in the days of the Regents. Amelia and her baby remain with the Unbroken, joining forces to bring Stalwart back to its semblance of its former glory. The Regency is ended, but an echo of its old dignity and pride remain. There is hope for the Blasted Realm. Though it takes time to recover from the devastation of the Edict of Storms, the Bladegrave begins its slow march towards healing. The realm of Stalwart may never resemble its former glory, but the land is not so blasted that something new and better can't be built atop the bones of the past. The Regent bloodline has ended. With it, new traditions and legacies spring to life. Your travels never took you to the Burning Library, and this leaves the Edict of Fire undisturbed, consigning the Vellum Citadel to a future engulfed by perpetual flame. With their arcane knowledge beyond reach, the School of Ink and Quill falls into a steep decline, your name becoming a curse in their embittered remarks. After granting the control of Letian's Crossing to your coalition, the city falls into a state of frequent disarray, with pockets of order. While your allies are pleased to control the settlement, it will take time for them to grow out of their wartime rivalry and into a true mantle of shared leadership. By returning the Magebane helm, you ensured the Bane would not be able to get into the city. For the time being, the threat of the Bane incursion is dispelled. The settlers are grateful to go about their lives unburdened by Despero, though knowing how close they came to annihilation haunts them. They hope that the security you provided endures. You lent your martial prowess to the Battle of Letian's Crossing. Recognizing that the attacks would have been devastating without your intervention, the settlers praise you as their salvation. The city is renamed Stannis Javert's Crossing in your honor, and everyone who witnessed the battle speaks of you with highest regard. Though the death of Matani was a blow to the Vengeance Guard, her loss is seen as a hero's death, saving the citizens she was sent to protect. The Forgebound thrive in your coalition. For the first time in recorded history, men and women of Southern origin are able to take up iron weapons and stand tall against the oppression of tyrants. Less a ruler than a stern matriarch, the mighty Reef Talon rears her patchwork tribe on discipline and exertion. Beast patrols clear new paths in the depths, opening more of the wound to settlement, and farmers cultivate the hardy vegetables and fungi on every vacant plot of soil. Working from the remnants of Jaspis' workshop and Wagstaff rituals, Mel tediously pieces together enough of the purification methods pioneered by the pair to provide the wound with clean water. For the first time in years, the denizens of the wound know prosperity and peace. By enacting an Edict of Vengeance Well, you announced your power to the world and showed Kairos' forces that what you were capable of. When you defeated their leader and scattered their armies before you, it sent a message to Kairos. A new Archon is born. While the edict dissipated, its effect will always be felt as the first true threat to Kairos' rule. The death of Graven Ashe means the end of the Disfavored. Without the comfort and support of the great general, what remains of the Legion slinks into hopelessness. The Archon's seat is left vacant, and whether or not it can be occupied again is a heated topic. For now, far from his place of final rest, the Northern Empire mourns its fallen son. Killing the voices of Nerat spread the joy of bloody vengeance across the continent. Celebrated as the death of the history's greatest parasite, the occasion is marked by all who suffered under the oppression of the Scarlet Chorus. Even in victory, one thought nags you. Though you have witnessed his death, you can't help but wonder if the voices of Nerat is done with you. Yeah, that is a thing I'm worried about, but you know, what else could I have done other than try my best to kill him? With the death of Tunon the Adjudicator, the bastard city threatens to slide back into lawless ways. Keeping the peace and imposing a new definition of order commands all of your focus. You learn to delegate the responsibilities to a new court of Fatebinders, who lighten the burden and make the Archon's absence a manageable setback. The death of Bledan Mark deprived the world of a most capable murderer. One less bedtime story to scare children is no significant loss, though you can't help but glance at the dark corners of every room and feel as if something is watching you. Bledan Mark will cast a long shadow on your life. You may have released Barik from his twisted shell of bronze armor, but you will never free him from his debasement, nor does he make any attempts to liberate himself from you. At times you wonder if it was truly the armor that kept him filthy at all, or if it was merely an excuse to cling to his regression. Angry and morose, Barik brutally vents his frustrations upon the troops in charge, quickly becoming the most feared and loathed of all of your drill masters. Barik sometimes disappears for a week without warning, and returning even more morose and mug-covered than he left. The spy you sent to track him on one of those excursions reports that he wanders to the path of the conquest, laying to proper rest his disfavored comrades. It seems an impossibly large task for a lifetime of a lone man, even one who so desperately seeks atonement. Though freed from his twisted shell of bronze... what? This makes no sense. This contradicts the previous panel. Though freed of his twisted shell of bronze, Barik seems little less morose. He moves forward from the Edict of Storms only haltingly, attention half turned ahead towards an uncertain future and half behind at the choices that brought him here. The Northerner remains dedicated to the oaths he has sworn to you, drilling your forces and commanding them on the field. If he isn't exactly loved by your troops, at the very least he holds their respect. In the rare times of calm, he takes leaves of absence from your service, scouring the blade grave for fallen sons and daughters of the Northern Empire and laying them to proper rest. Though the somber task seems beyond the meager lifespan of a single soldier, Barik returns from each of these excursions, standing just a bit more upright. In the absence of the voices of Nerat and the need to avenge her fallen sisters, Verse discovers something akin to contentment. For a time, you find her atop your spire, face turned toward the horizon, eyes closed, but the wind ruffles the feathers in her hair. It doesn't last. She disappears from your service without a farewell. When she returns months later, she is trailed by a disparate gang of young women recruited from every corner of the tiers, farmers, merchants, and former nobles hungry for greatness, or pledged to study the bloody lessons Verse has to impart. Her new callous sisterhood grows slowly compared to the chorus, but each new member makes of violence a mesmerizing dance. Soon, Verse and her cadre become the most feared of your enforcers, achieving a notoriety almost akin to that of Bledan Mark. I really hope she doesn't enslave them. I hope it's more of a mercenary band than a replication of the chorus. As surely as you liberated Lantry from the depravities of the Scarlet Chorus, you unshackled him from the weight of history. no longer fixated on the preservation of the work of the sages, the scribe instead sets himself to recording the present with renewed vigor, becoming your most persistent biographer. Even if some describe his work as more propaganda than history, Lantry increasingly turns to scavenging the lesser pages of the Chronicle for writing material, making the sages' histories palimpsests of your rising glory, and your inevitable confrontation with the Overlord. If Lantry's scrutiny sometimes discomforts you, his predictions for the future, deduced with an experienced eye of a student of history, rob you of more than one night's sleep. Ebb remains in your company when she seeks out promising recruits among your supporters. After recognizing some obvious talents, she takes them as apprentices in a new school of would-be typecasters. Though she often jokes that the school is bound to fail with her at the helm, her students think otherwise, as do many of dozens of hopefuls begging for her tutelage. Kills in Shadow shows little interest in cleaning up the tears after your victory. Instead, she takes it upon herself to hunt down every disfavored soldier in the country. You hear frequent words of maulings and disappearances among Kairos' ranks, perpetuated by a beast of legendary ferocity. Though you could no doubt track down your wayward companion, you let her continue her bloody work, of equal parts respect and fear. Without the threat of the Overlord's control, Sirin struggles with how to manage her freedom. Inspiration finally strikes her as she travels the tiers, visiting the small villages ravaged by Kairos' occupation. She sings to the frightened and hurt villagers, buoying their spirits and allaying their fears. Guilt for her hand in the horrors wrought upon the world by the Scarlet Chorus spurs her on, and her wonders become more and more spectacular. The followers of the Songbird grow in number, taking the message of peace and harmony throughout Terratus. You turned your back on your career in the Overlord's hierarchy, disregarding the years of advancement to help the people of the tiers. Your sacrifices paint you as a folk hero, a liberator, and an artisan of future change. When Kairos retaliates, you will have the support of your newfound allies to help drive back the onslaught. From your perch atop the ancient spire, you can see the hints of a northern empire just beyond the mountains. At your command, horns shout a triumphant cry across the valley, heralding the end of one long campaign and the beginning of another. Well, so that was Tyranny. I really liked it. There's plenty to like about this game. First of all, the setting itself is great. I enjoyed the fact that it was, the cusp of the Iron Age, sort of antiquity-esque universe, rather than your standard medieval-esque Western European kind of setting. And overall, the whole story was pretty cool in that it offered plenty of opportunities to make difficult decisions or moral choices, and that's something that I enjoy a lot in games because it gives me things to reflect on. This game also seems like it would be very replayable because obviously I joined with the Rebels, but I could have joined with the Disfavored or with the Scarlet Chorus, and I could have seemingly stayed kinda loyal to Kairos, in a way. I'm not sure how that would have played, but even there at the end I could still proclaim my loyalty to him. So there seems to be, for example, I've never visited the Vellum Citadel, so, that's a whole location I have never visited in this playthrough. And for example, the Beastmen, I haven't sided with them, and the ending for Azure would surely have been different if I did. I feel kind of bad for them, to be honest. But yeah, the story was cool, the characters were pretty cool as well. I especially liked Lantry. Lantry was an interesting character because he was an opportunist, which is a trait that does not inspire sympathy. But in spite of that, because of the way he carried himself, I kind of liked him. I thought he was pretty reasonable, and sort of, he was a pretty mellow person. My biggest problem with him was, I guess, that he lacked conviction, because he just wanted to stay alive to chronicle history. The way he sort of got drunk on the whole Kairos' unstoppable Kool-Aid is a little disconcerting, but I get him. It's not difficult to understand why someone would think that. Verse was an interesting character as well, because she was seemingly a psychopath, and yet she has discovered some measure of like gentleness in how she cared for that woman that lost her daughters, even though one of those daughters killed one of her sisters. So yeah, Kills in Shadow was hilarious at times. You know, just this slobbering, salivating beast of murder. I feel like I haven't learned that much about Sirin. Like, have I missed a quest from her or something? Let me know in the comments if you know. I tried talking with her, you know, regularly and exhausted all of the dialogue options, so I'm not sure what else I could have done, you know, in that regard. But yeah, the characters were interesting. I cared about most of them. What else? The one gripe I have with this story is that it's strangely a little schizophrenic. I'm not sure if it reads this way on other routes besides the Rebel Path, but on the Rebel Path the game seemed to have been kind of torn asunder, because I was rebelling against Kairos and it acknowledged it sometimes, but most of the time it played as if I was loyal to Kairos. Like, you know, my talks with Tunon, for example, or the fact, you know, I've murdered hundreds of Kairos' soldiers, including some of the high-ranking ones, such as Graven Ash's second-in-command, and no one seemingly cared that much. Like, I find it weird, and I find it to be a little immersion-breaking. Like, my suspension of disbelief was pretty thoroughly tested by how this game was set up on the Rebel Path. So I'm not sure, you know, I don't have a comparison between the different paths, but if you know, if you've played a different one, if you could tell me if it makes like more sense, or is more like, does the game seem made with one of the other paths in mind? I'm not sure, because it didn't always feel like the Rebel Path was planned from the beginning. It felt sometimes like it was glued onto a game in which you're kind of loyal to Kairos. So that's weird. But overall, this game was definitely enjoyable. Pretty good. I enjoyed, for example, the multitude of skill checks in dialogue. That was great. I enjoy skill checks as a mechanic, and I think it was implemented great here. Yeah, what else? I'm not sure. You know, I didn't care much for the gameplay. I kind of sucked at it, I just clicked whatever. I couldn't be bothered to remember all of the different skills and how they synergize with each other. But I got through the game without that much trouble, so, you know, I don't have a problem with that. And, you know, for me, the most important things were the story and the characters, and they were alright and cool and nice. So, you know, I enjoyed the game quite a lot. I wouldn't say it's like a masterpiece to last through the ages or something, but it is definitely a pretty good game, and I don't regret spending my time with it. And I wasn't ever bored of it. If anything, my throat hurts a little from all of the reading. I'm not used to this amount of text to be read out loud, but you know, that probably couldn't have been helped. To have this amount of voice read by voice actors would be prohibitively expensive. So yeah, I might write something more, like a review or a summary of my impressions. If I do, it's going to be in a pinned comment underneath this video, and if I don't, then I guess I don't. For now, that's all for Tyranny, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.